Fuck all you hoes. Get a grip, motherfucker. Yeah, this album is dedicated to all the teachers that told me I never amount to nothing. To all the people that lived above the buildings that I was hustling from that called the police on me when I was just trying to make some money to feed my daughter. And all the niggas in the struggle, you know what I'm saying? It's all good, baby. It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine, Salt and Pepper and Heavy D up in the limousine, hanging pictures on my wall. Every Saturday, rap attack, Mr. Magic Marley Marl. I let my tape rock till my tape pop. Smoking weed and bamboo, sipping on private stock. Way back when I had the red and black lumberjack with the hat to match. Remember rapping Duke? The hard, you never thought that hip-hop would take it this far. Now I'm in the limelight cause I rhyme tight. Time to get paid, blow up like the world trade. Born sinner, the opposite of a winner. Remember when I used to eat sardines for dinner? Peace to Ron G, Brucey B, Kid Capri, Funk Master Flex, Love.
All right, good evening everyone. My name is Alejo Sepulveda. I am a fraternity brother of Max Monroy-Miller. I've known Max since 2002, so it's a long time. Learned a lot from him throughout our time knowing each other, and I was lucky enough to spend this last several years in the same city as Max. As you know, the first maybe 8-10 years of our relationship, we were never in the same city, so this past 3 years, I learned a lot from him. I appreciated him, his friendship, and everything that he did for me, just as far as just me being able to learn from him, and his enthusiasm for life and just loving everyone. So I'd like to start off by saying welcome to the vigil celebrating the life of Max Monroy-Miller. This evening, we will share stories of how Max impacted our lives in so many different ways. Even though it is difficult to comprehend that we won't get another chance to see Max in his physical form, Max will always be with us in spirit. And as we share these stories tonight, let us remember that and just remember what a great person he was. Max, you can see in the picture right here, he has 2 tattoos, live and love. And he was all about living your life to the fullest and doing it with love. So with that, we're going to begin the vigil, and I'm going to invite Mr. Francisco Velasquez of Omega Delta Phi Fraternity, Alpha Beta Chapter here at Michigan State, to say a few words about, you know, how we feel and about Max. So, the floor is yours.
Good evening. As he stated, my name is Francisco Velasquez. I actually came to college. I'm probably Alejo's cousin, and we came to college together, so I've known Max the same amount of time. We got very close. As I'll mention here in a minute, I didn't have big brothers, so Max definitely helped fill that void, along with not only Max, but several of the other members of Omega Delta Phi. But yes, so on behalf of Omega Delta Phi, I'd like to say a few words. It might take me a while to get through it, but I'll get through it. I knew I was going to write this since yesterday. I'm in communications. I graduated in journalism from here at Michigan State, so I write all the time. But I had a bit of writer's block. And it's not because writing would make it more real that it's not because writing would make it more real that I just haven't been able to find words. I needed to think about why I had no words. And I realized today that that's precisely the issue. I just don't know what to say. I'm sure I'm not the only one. So rather than trying to think of what he meant to me personally and to us brothers as individuals, which in many ways is indescribable, I instead thought of the symbolism he provided in our lives. His legacy will remain because of these symbols that he's represented by way of his words, and more importantly, his actions. I hope that I've been at least half as smart to have scratched the surface of the symbols he showed us. So tonight I would like to start off by saying that I wear symbols that he helped provide us. Symbols or letters that quite literally changed many lives. These letters I proudly wear because of men like Max. It's these letters that are more than letters because of men like Max. You're not a brother simply because you wear letters. Max showed us that a brother uses the motto of brotherhood to uplift, to teach, to grow, to protect. And what were his tools? Compassion, understanding, patience, guidance, honesty, integrity, love. I'm not ashamed to say that more than a handful of us entered this fraternity without knowing the deep privilege it has been to meet men like Max. We certainly do now. More than a handful of us came into this without knowing what it's like to have an older brother, a mentor even. We certainly do now. More than a handful of us came into this feeling like an outsider in some form, yearning for complete identity, unlocked from the shackles of societal constriction. We didn't know what it truly meant for Chicanos, Latinos, humans to press on like he would. Adelante. We certainly do now. From the moment he came to campus, he used dedication and loyalty to garner the trust of his college friends, soon turning into founders, brothers. Men like Max founded this for me. For us. Perhaps more importantly, he founded this so I can have myself founded. I know it's not great English, but you know what I mean. We are not the same men without him being in our lives. So, in a way, Max helped found each one of us. And it wasn't until just a few days ago that I realized just how much gratitude we hold for him. Even today, I'm still learning that, looking at this room. I wish I could tell him thanks once more. I know for many beyond myself, it still hasn't sunk in that I'll never see his face again. A few of us last night were talking about how excited we would be to see him whenever a function would show up, a wedding would come around while he was in Texas and California as Papito mentioned, he was away for a while. We discussed how we would be excited because of the warmth he showed us from day one, and ultimately, a warmth that we got accustomed to. We'd be seeing someone who never was afraid to show he cared for us. We knew when we saw him, we were entering a circle of trust, of support and non-judgment, of unconditional unity. So when he moved back to Lansing, we were ecstatic. You see, that's the thing about Max. Everyone who came across him liked him, and perhaps even more astoundingly, felt appreciated by him. He had an impact on many lives beyond our own, including a good amount of youth in Texas and California. I personally admired how he was able to accept so many into his heart without expectations in return. And that's why it's so hard to take right now. He was a voice of reason in a world of confusion, a world sometimes of deceit. Despite society's negative structure that pulls on us from day to day, it's astonishing how he was able to stay as humane, as righteous as he was. That's something for us to aspire to in the name of his legacy. That's what he left us. A message that we must continue to live and to love. My only regret is that I don't know if I showed him enough how much I loved him. And when I say that, I don't mean just me. There's a lot of us in this fraternity who feel the same way. And assuredly, he would have accepted because he wasn't a man of archaic machismo. He was a modern man with principles that humans have praised for generations. But again, it's not what we say humans should be. It's how he exemplified what actions a brother should take. And now I just don't mean a brother of OD5. Now I mean a brother or sister to our friends, to our colleagues, to our students. Sir Sabroso did that. So thank you, brother, for helping to shape us into better men. No matter what fancy words I use tonight, that's the gist of it. You simply made us better. So like the words on his arms, let's live like Max. Let's love like Max. Simply put, because that's how it should be. We love you.
I knew Max for a long time. This is too I knew Max for a long time. I met Max when he was an undergrad here at MSU, and when my husband and I first got here, we got our first jobs here. And it was the year 2000, and Salah, my husband, was leading a study abroad trip to Mexico. And I was along for the ride, and Max was a student on the trip, along with, luckily for us, a couple of other Chicanos, there. And so as you can imagine, traveling with a group of American undergraduates to any country can be challenging, but taking them to Mexico has its own special set of challenges. You know, student behavior and attitude, first world students in a so-called third world country, it was really frustrating sometimes. So I have a little story about the trip, and I don't know if you guys if it will mean to you or you'll be able to understand from it what it means to me. But I want to tell it because over the years, all these years since, it has always symbolized Max for me. It was just like this short thing that happened. It was New Year's Eve 2000, and we had a group dinner. It was really fun. We had a great time. We went out dancing at this club. Afterwards, a whole group of us, all of us on the study abroad trip. And then we were trying to get back to our hotel in Puebla. I think we were in Puebla. And Salah, my husband, he was getting cabs for us and sending us back in groups. And I was standing on the side of the road with Max, and I can't even remember what he did. He was just being like 20, 21-year-old Max. And please, like, forgive me, but, and so I sort of lost it. And I was like, Max, do you have to be such a gringo? Like, I was, and he, like, I startled him, and he stopped, and he, like, looked at me, and then he threw back his head, and he just busted up laughing. Like, he laughed so hard. And he laughed, like, you know what I mean when I say how he laughed. And then he gave me a high five, and said, I gotcha. Yeah. But it was in that moment, and when Max looked at me, when I said, do you have to be such a gringo? In that moment, when he looked at me, and y'all know what I'm talking about, like when he got something, and he looked, and you could see it like dawning on him, when he's figured it out, and then the way he laughed was such appreciation, you know, for what he had learned. I mean, when I think of that moment, like that's Max for me, right? Because Max was humble. Max was really humble. And it's the kind of humility that comes from deep intelligence, from self-awareness, and a really special kind of generosity. Max could see his own contradictions, like when I say to the Chicano Power kids, stop being such a gringo. Like he saw it. And you know what? He wasn't defensive. He wasn't offended. He wasn't self-righteous about it. He just like got it. And he was unafraid to announce his nationalism, because you know Max was a nationalist. Max was a Chicano nationalist. And when I talk here tonight and I say Chicano studies, I say it deliberately, because that was Max. Max was Chicano studies. He was unafraid to announce his nationalism just as much as he was unafraid to evolve in relation to it, right? So when Max showed up in the CLS office a couple summers ago when I was still director, and this is like, I don't know, like 15 years later, 14 years later or something, I had a feeling, you know. I'd heard over the years that he was a teacher, that he was out in Cali, that, you know, he was doing this different stuff, and he walked in, you know, I had this, I just had a feeling. And it was weird, it was a, you know, it was not a conventional route into our program. And, you know, it was, and for years I had been trying to figure out, ever since I first got to CLA, I've been trying to figure out a way to get our foot in the door in the College of Ed. Because I knew they needed us. And so when Max came in that day and he started talking to me about his work as an assistant principal, about his teaching, about transformative justice, restorative justice that he was doing, his abiding love for Chicano studies, that feeling took hold, and I knew, I was like, Max is the one. Max will do it for us. Max believed, as I do, and as do others in Chicano studies, that kids need to learn about us from our perspective. Teachers need to teach about us from our perspective. That's the difference. Not just like writing about Chicanos or Latinos, but like writing about it from what we think. I knew Max would be our ambassador. I knew he'd be our ambassador, and that Max could take CLS over to the College of Ed. And when it was all said and done, and he was admitted to CLS, and we began talking about getting him into the psych courses, I was so excited, I cannot tell you. I was so excited. Max, I said, we love you.
We loved him.
No, and you did. You did. You know, I started to get a little nervous towards the end, right when I was leaving CLS. And, because I see how much y'all love him. And I'd be like, Max, you remember where you came from, right? Like when you list your degree, when you list your affiliation, you remember what comes first, right? I'd be like, I don't know, Chicano Latino Studies. We'd say, that's right. Max loved being Chicano, and he loved Chicano studies. He did an incredible amount for us when he was here. Every single minute he was with us had value. And I trusted him so much with our kids. I'd be like leaving the office, knowing the study hall was coming, and all the students would be coming in. I'd be like, Max, your assistant principal, right? Max, you got it, right? I knew he would take care of our kids, and I knew that he could go out and he could bring them to us where they belong, right? Because they're not going to learn about Chicanos and Latinos like we teach them from anywhere else. I really believed in him. I still do, and I know we all do. And I was so proud. I was so proud that Max was out there representing us. So his work is still our work. It continues, even though he isn't here. He always knew he was a part of something that was beyond him and that was beyond each of us. And that was his belief in social justice. We change the way we teach kids. If we change our curriculum, we're going to change our world. We transform the curriculum, we transform society. Max believed that, and you know he was devoting his life to it. It's all right here. It's all right here. So, the thing is, he was just so big, right? Like, he was big. And even though I haven't seen him in a few months, I just feel this void, this in the world. It's just it's huge. So I just wanted to do one last thing. Maybe somebody else is going to do it too, but I just think we need to fill the room. We need to bring Max here for a minute. So Max Monroy-Miller, presente. Everybody. Max Monroy-Miller, presente. Max Monroy-Miller, presente.
Well, I'm one of the founders with Max and Dan. He's finally here, and I met him probably in '97. I'm not going to share anything that's too deep. Actually, I've got, just something that reminds me of Max. Because me and him are very similar. I grew up in Brighton. He grew up in Traverse City. We were basically white boys that found each other, found ourselves in college. So, he was all about Chicano studies, but, me and him were not ready for it when we first got here. But, we found ourselves and we found each other in college. And the thing that I remember about Max, and I don't know how many of you guys know Alex Alvarez, but I'll tell you what, getting 10 seconds to go to the bathroom with Alex and Max was like gold. Because somebody's shaving, somebody's taking a shower, somebody's primping and prepping, and somebody's lining themselves up. They spent more time in the bathroom. Obviously you can tell from my hairdo, that's it, I'm done, I'm out. But, that's the stuff that I remember, is the little stuff that we kind of did, and just kind of walking around and having conversations, and I'm going to miss that. Thank God. I was able to have lunch with them a couple of weeks ago, and we went to Brody and had lunch with my little sister. And I did not expect that phone call a few days ago. So I wish I would have had one more lunch. But, you know, I'll miss him. That's it. I'll miss all the little stuff, not the big stuff, not the political stuff, not the gung-ho stuff, but just all the little stuff that he kind of brought to my life. So with that, I'll let you go.
I'm reading this letter written on behalf of my colleague who couldn't be here today, Professor Javier Pescador, who first met Max when he came here. So I'm going to read this on his behalf. I met Max when I came to MSU to teach Chicano history as a grad student. He enrolled in the class and later took my IAH course on Chicano history and memory. I vividly remember him hanging out with all the Chicanada, people like Marce Trevino, Mark Torres, and many more students trying to make a difference in higher education for Latino students. Max impressed me for his political involvement and his engagement both in and outside the classroom. But what I really found unique about him was his gentle energy. He was firm and determined, but never loud or offensive. He used irony and humor to place things in perspective and was able to present a valid point without antagonizing or making anybody feel uncomfortable. I saw him again only years after. We ran into each other on Grand River Avenue. He said hi as if we had just seen each other the day before and gave me a hug. "Estás igualito," I told him. And with his exceptional humor, he said, "Sí, nada más un poco gordito." Last time I saw him, he was one of the MSU Latino community faculty, welcoming Latino students to MSU. Unlike most of the speakers who were just making announcements about themselves, Max talked about his history with MSU, the history of Chicano studies, and how he was a doctoral student in a program that did not exist when he came to MSU. His words reminded me how fun it was to be in the classroom with that generation of Chicanos and Chicanos. He was optimistic, authentic, committed, passionate, but also friendly and gentle, humilde pues. He did not mention that people of his generation are the reason why we have Chicano studies today. He did not mention his role in the many student activist actions that forced authorities to create Chicano studies. He sounded just like the first time he spoke in my class. Sencillo, intelligent, genuine, passionate, and above all, con un gran corazón en el pecho. Once again, he made me proud. Un abrazo a todos los presentes y Dios te bendiga, Max Monroy. Javier Pescador.
So many people here. For those of you who don't know, I'm Denise Maybank, and I have the privilege of serving as the Vice President for Student Affairs here at Michigan State University. And Max touched my life. And I would be remiss if I did not get up tonight and talk about his impact on Michigan State University. Because Max was a force that moved through Michigan State University. Max was the bridge for so much at Michigan State University. And because of Max, we are better and we are changed. And when I think about not having Max, I'm diminished by that, as we all are, because of his commitment to making this place better. So no matter the circumstance, no matter the context, if he were standing somewhere and there was conflict around what Michigan State University was about, and it wasn't doing what it needed to do, Max would be the voice. And when I think about him and the smile, you could take anything coming from Max because he would do that. And you would stand there and go, okay. And that was the beauty of the person and his being a force on this campus. As I listened to his fraternity brother talk about him being a protector, I saw Mr. Force. When I listened to people talk about him just being the vibrancy of anything in which he was engaged, that's the Max that I know and love. When I think about the Max that I know, I think about impact as none other. And that is the value that I will hold forever in how he moved and lived and filled this space, in who he is and who he will continue to be to all of us. And I'm grateful today that he touched my life. And the quote that I want to leave with you is from Emile Zola, and he said, if you ask me what I came into this life to do, I will tell you I came to live out loud. And that is it.
Me have the chance to get to know Max as long, I met him and Heather within the past year and a half. But within that, I had some great interactions with Max. I didn't get to know his background with MSU from him personally, but it sounds amazing to everyone else. But as a person, I can remember, I'm just now coming into my adulthood, and as a woman, you like to decorate your home and, you know, make it warm and friendly. And I remember having a conversation with Max about paint colors and curtains and, you know, the window treatments and how, you know, it just brightens up a room or it affects a room, and just the excitement and the light that was in his eyes. I was just thinking, wow, like, you're part of OD5 and you're sitting here enjoying this conversation about curtains and paint colors. It was like, that's awesome, like, to see how much love and attention he paid to detail and just had that light in his eyes. And I just appreciate that about him. And that's all I really have to share, but it's not much, but it was my special moment, and it really gave me just a small glimpse of the bigger person that he was.
Have to go. And I just recently came back from a study abroad from Campeche, Mexico. And the last text message he sent me was, I have one task. While you are down there, I want you to do something thoughtful for someone, for one person while you're down there. I don't care if it's $2 or $5. Just at some point when it feels right to help out someone who you know needs it, I want to hear about it from each of every other person in your group and choose why you did it. This to myself speaks a lot about Max. Max was not selfish. Max gave a lot. Max was he was a big brother to me. He was a father figure to myself. He brought a lot of characteristics of my father, which I will forever remember. I highly respect Max. Well, I will remember him forever.
3 a.m. in the morning, I received a phone call that will single changed my existence at MSU. My friend Lynette called me and told me, D, Max is gone. My immediate response was, no, you're wrong. Somebody is punking us on Facebook, figure it out. And call me back, or I'm gonna call and double verify and check my sources and make sure. And Lynette knows me well enough to know that when I just leave it alone and let me figure it out. So I called a couple people, and they started calling me back, and Lynette had been right. Of all the times I've spent here, I've been happy that she was right a lot of the time. But on this time, I hated that she was right. I was so angry. I told her, this isn't fair. Max is the best of us, the greatest of us, the most infectious personality I've ever met. He had more energy than all of us. He could be up all day in classes through the day, mentoring through the evening, and plotting to take over MSU through the night. Max and I used to text back and forth around 2 and 3 in the morning that the only people who are up strategizing the takeover of MSU and making them do what the students want was me, him, and Dr. Maybank, making sure we don't get our way. So I'll read to you the statement that as the Vice President of External Affairs for the Council of Graduate Students, in which Max was a representative for the curriculum instruction and teacher education, that I had to write. And I'll tell you, we have our challenges and costs, as with all governing bodies. We have to make a lot of tough decisions, and we have to do a lot of hard things. This was the worst thing I ever had to do. It was the hardest thing. And it fell on me to write this statement about my friend. And I just didn't know where the words would come from. It took 6 hours to figure out what I could say. I said, Lynette, you gotta look at this. I don't know if I'm coherent. I don't know if I'm saying the right thing. I don't know if I got it right. But I'm gonna do my best because I don't want the last thing we write about our friend to be wrong. So what we wrote, first, let me tell you, Max was a fucking celebrity. I would get text messages from people saying, D, I saw Max. I'm like, what is he like? Where in the world is Waldo or Matt Stanley? And I texted that, I said my single greatest memory is when she texted me a Max sighting because it became a thing. I saw Max and I'm like, oh Lord, what is he doing and what am I gonna have to get us out of? Because Max, once he sets his mind to changing things, he's going to change things. And she was like, well, he had President Simon hemmed up in the corner. There goes the university. But it was things like that that made being here, you know, so fun and so interesting. There was never a dull moment for any of us. And when I revealed to him that I would get these Max sighting texts, he started telling me when he would cite people, I saw Lynette. I was like, well, what is she doing? Now she's a problem. It just became our thing, Max sighting. So Max was a freaking celebrity. I don't care what Hollywood has to say about it. So we wrote, Dear Spartan family, the sky over Michigan State University became a bit dimmer today as we mourn the sudden death of fellow graduate student in Chicano Latino Studies and Curriculum Instruction and Teacher Education, Max Monroy-Miller. The loss of any Spartan is difficult, but a sudden loss is increasingly more troublesome. Max served as the site representative for the Council of Graduate Students. His passion for justice and love for humanity were evident in all he did. Max lived his life out loud and embodied the true essence of what it means to be a humanitarian. As Spartans, we are family. We support each other and stand together during the difficult times. This is a time when the collective spirit, energy, and the very essence of what makes us Spartans is being called upon. Today, let's breathe a collective breath and send our positive thoughts to the family of Max Monroy-Miller, his friends, classmates, instructors, and those who were fortunate enough to cross his path. As the light for one Spartan burnt out too soon, let our collective light shine and guide Max safely home. Rest in peace, Max, henceforth and forevermore, a Spartan. Solidarity forever, brother.
Hi, I'm Joseph Guzman. I'm the interim director of Chicano Latino Studies, and I have a couple of messages to share. Dean Schmidt asked me to read a note from him, and I'm not finding it here quickly enough. Let me see. I'll read it really quick, and then I have some words of my own to share. It is with a great sadness that I write this message. In the few short meetings in which I met with Max Monroy-Miller, I learned to appreciate his passion for Chicano Latino studies, his desire to improve educational systems, and his leadership. It was obvious that faculty and peers liked and respected him. We are all saddened by his death. I hope his family and his MSU community will accept our sympathy and support in the weeks and months ahead. Dean Schmidt is traveling across the coast, and so he can't be here. And I just had a couple of thoughts. For sure, we've lost one of our finest. He was a friend, and I considered him a future colleague, a colleague already, with a beautiful mind and a heart of gold. I know that we've got people that knew him for many, many years, since undergrad years, but whether it was days, weeks, or months, I think that we were all happy and thankful for the time that Max walked with us. Max had the power to light up a room just by entering, and he could lead a group by just being there. He had a famous laugh, and the guys would talk about this laugh, but I never heard it until one day we went out for lunch, and we were in Detroit, and one of the guys decided to order chocolate milk for lunch, and the waitress said, "Would you like whipped cream on top of that chocolate milk?" And he said yes, and Max just blurted out a laugh, a big laugh. He says, "How are you going to keep your street cred like that?" And I dare say nobody worked harder. He was a big presence in the office. You could always count on him for a ready smile and a warm embrace. Every time. He just set the tone for the office. He really made it beautiful for us. I have to say, and I wish I was saying this with Max here, but to those of you who are here and come to our office, in all my years having small offices and big offices, the time I've had with Chicano Latino Studies has been the most rewarding, the most positive ever. Christian and Sam and Michael, I want you guys to know that right now. So as much as we'll miss him, we have to not forget that he's leaving a mother with only memories and a fiance with dashed hopes. We have to really keep them in mind. We're going to make the most of what we can by sharing our precious memories. And we try really hard, and I think we're trying hard now. It's almost as though Max were here. But it's never going to be the same. We can't bring Max back, and it's a tragedy, period. It's a tragedy. But we're here to honor the time that he walked with us. So I want to say thank you, Max. Your joyful spirit made our journey together unforgettable and gave us a glimpse of the possible. In our resolve to never again lose great promise to anything but old age. And as today is St. Patrick's Day, I'd like to share an Irish blessing with you because I think it captures a lot. That is, this is for all of you. Max was one of our finest, and so are all of you. This is for Max and for the room. And I urge you to repeat it when you can, because it's a beautiful blessing. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and rains fall soft upon your fields. Until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.
And that's the person he was, that's the person I love. And I just want to let you know that he loved you. He loved you guys so much that he believed in Chicano studies, because this institution and institutions of higher education and K-12, they don't teach you to love yourself if you're brown or black. And he believed that, you know what I'm saying? And so that's why he fought so hard for this program, for what he believed in. As his colleague, as his friend, I was there those nights staying up, putting these ideas together and just smashing them. And there's another board full, you know. But it was all out of love, out of this transformational love, because he wanted to see a new society, a new humanity, right? Because we get told that we're not worth shit. And he didn't believe that. He was about love and joy and this laughter. And that's how I'm going to remember him and live his legacy to the fullest. And a lot of times I just want to quit, but this dissertation, this PhD, this is for him. I'm going to dedicate it to him.
I'm Django Paris, professor in teacher education, and I had the privilege of being Max's advisor, committee advisor in SITE through the work of Sheila and Sandra Crespo and Sonia Gunnings and many others. So I'm not going to share all this, but I do want to say, right before spring break, Max, so first of all, Max being a Chicano from Michigan who had spent all this time doing educational justice work in California, and us being from the Bay, we hit it off immediately. It was like he came in and I was like, right on, bro. So he was in our youth language and literacy class last year, and asked if I'd be his advisor, and I was like, whoa, man. This will definitely be a dialogic relationship. So right before spring break, he was actually in my office finalizing his program of study. The classes that he would take, most of which he had already fulfilled in CLS, and what he would do to fulfill his SITE work, and thinking about his dissertation, building on the work he was doing with Knox on youth activism and decolonial love down in Detroit. And so we were planning out this future of his work, between these programs, and it was a really beautiful moment to see his continuing evolution. And I was only beginning to grasp who he had been here over time. And folks like Estrella and Dylan and some of the grad students now, like Raven Jones Stanbro, who I worked with as a doctoral student, who was an undergrad with him. Max was coalitional through and through. He knew how to do that coalitional work we need. He had just formed a committee that I think may have been worthy of his dopeness. It was Yomira Figueroa, Dorinda Carter-Andrews, Maribel Santiago, and I, and then he would continue to work with these strong, powerful mentors he had all these years to do this work. And so I guess the last thing to know Max, but he was already family. He was a person whose soul shone so bright you could actually see justice in his eyes. It was an amazing thing. You could see it. We mourn your loss, hermano, and we will continue to work in your light. And I really, I look forward to the continued relationship between teacher education and CLS, and doing things in Max's name so that we can hold up his work and support people who are doing that work for the educational justice we need as Black and brown people. I love you all, and I love Max.
So I've been recording everybody, taking pictures for Heather and her family. My name is Erin Alvarez, and I'm a third-year Chicano Latino Studies PhD student that Dr. Guzman didn't quite mention. And that's one of the things I want to talk about. So I am Chicana from California. And if you've been here in Michigan, you know that there's three of us, right? And so I remember it was the summer before Max started here, and he came into the office with Michael and I, and he was talking to us, and his face just lit up the office. And he said, we were talking, and he said, oh, I lived in the Bay Area. And I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Somebody else knows my struggle. Somebody else knows what it's like to live in the Bay Area and to work with students of color and to understand what it's like to be mixed race, to be biracial, and to want to empower so many people. And the other thing that Max we stayed up many late nights also in studying, and him walking up and down the hallways trying to get his steps in on his Fitbit. And then I started doing that too. Like, gotta get my steps in. But the one thing that I appreciate the most about Max was that his excitement about learning new things. He had recently read Chicana Codex by Shri Moraga. And for me, Shri Moraga is a defining person in my scholarship and in my life and in part of my identity. And one night we were talking, and he's like, yeah, I'm reading this book and Chicana Codex, and she's a Chicana in academia, and that's hard. And I was like, I know. I know. And usually I would, that's mansplaining. That's called mansplaining, right? But for Max, that wasn't what it was. That was sincere empowerment from him. There'll never be anybody else like him. He made me feel like I was at home. California was here with me in the office every day when I wasn't there. The past couple weeks, I know that he works late in our office, and I work in the union, and I'll drive down Farm Lane, and I'll look, and I'll be like, is Max there? Is the lights on? Is he there? And he hadn't been there in a while, and I hadn't seen him. I talked to him a few times, and so, he was part of Mika, and we had a social the week before spring break, and I don't go to meetings anymore. I'm tired. I'm lazy is what it is. And I went because I wanted to see Max, because I wanted to see his face, and he wasn't there. And when I left, I texted him. I said, what the fuck? I go to one meeting and you're not there. I miss your face. And he's like, I miss you too. Was the food good? So there's so many things we can say about him. And any of you that don't want to come up here and like to leave a message for his family and for Heather, meet me down at the end of the hallway, and you can leave a few messages, and I'll compile a video and give it to you guys just to show how deeply he affected so many people here. And I love him, and I'm gonna miss him. Thank you.
I'll go back. I'm back. Back in the mid-90s. I'll start yelling. When he first got to campus, he was green. Real green. I remember talking with folks, Esmeralda, Todd, Mark, you guys are right, he was a superstar. We caught up when he started Mika back up, when he started Mika. It was funny going back into the mid-90s, late 90s, 2000s. He was on campus being crazy Max. And back then, plotting to take over the world, helping all of us begin Chicano Latino Studies programs back in the day. And when I caught back up with him recently, it was like time stopped. We started talking about it again. And again, the same plan. Like, yo, man, we're gonna run this place. Like, I know, man, we've been talking about that for 15-ish years, dog. When are we gonna run it again? Not again, but. You're right, it's funny, someone mentioned earlier how he had that smile. He would have made the best car salesman ever. He could have sold you the worst Pinto, and you would have bought it and liked it. You would have drove it home on 3 wheels and you're like, yo, this is a bad whip. Because he sold it to you. He just had that air about him. he had that way about him. And in hindsight, looking back, you know, he was, like you mentioned, he was a star. He had that. He knew who he was coming in, and that made him very special. And for him to be able to bestow that on students, on his brother, and on all the people he came in contact with, that's really special. Because a lot of us coming into college don't know us. We're kind of feeling each other out, feeling ourselves. And kind of, he knew who he was, and he was comfortable in his skin. And he was able to say, you know, let me help guide my brother. Let me help guide this university to a place that will make it a world-class university. He really helped us get there. We're not quite there, but we're really getting close. And I feel in my heart, Max had a really, really big part of it. So the memories that I have are him just being who he is, always bright, always happy, always had a smile on his face. Him and I both got a little chunky after a couple years. And we caught up with that too. And let me, you know, Max never missed a meal. And every time we talked, you know, and he knew I had access to meal tickets. And those of you who knew, back in the days, meal tickets were like gold. Gold. And if you had access to meal tickets, you were on the speed dial. And, oh, you gotta have a meeting. That means I'm buying lunch. And I didn't mind, because, you know, I haven't missed a meal either in a while, so. But again, plotting to take over, it was like time stopped every time we would see each other. It was just right back to business. How are we gonna put the right people in place? How are we gonna make our moves? What are we gonna do to get us, where we need to be at this university? So those are the things it's smile, it's happiness, it's love for life. But the biggest thing is his mind was so sharp. He was always 9, 10 steps ahead. I bring up an idea and he's like, yeah, and you're like, okay, slow down, man. I need to let me catch up. So, from a historical standpoint, Mr. Max had a huge part in all of our lives, but I think from the university standpoint, he made a tremendous mark on this campus.
I met Max this year. He was a student in my graduate seminar, and he was amazing. He changed the dynamics of that room. I don't even know what I want to say about him. There's like so many different things. He lit up that room, and I mean, we keep saying that, right? He lit up that room. He was so passionate. I remember we read Emma Perez's The Decolonial Imaginary, and he went in. It was like he went in A Beautiful Mind in the classroom, right? Like we didn't stop hearing about it, right? The possibilities of love, right? And we had this long conversation about decolonial love. And I remember us talking towards the end of class, and I think some of the students were here, or my seminar here. And I don't know if y'all remember when we were talking about how words are often not enough, apologies are not enough, right? And I was like, no, it's not radical enough to apologize. What more, you know? And he was like, nah, professor, you're wrong. Sometimes words are enough. And I was like, no, you're crazy. Yeah, that's not happening. And he said, no, when I was a teacher and I had instances of students bullying, I would sit in a room with them and I'd mediate between them. And I'd have them apologize. And I'd have them talk it out. And maybe it wasn't perfect, but the words were enough. And I was like, touche. Sometimes words are enough, right? And we connected over that, and he's always, you know,
he was just so down, and it really brought in, I'm an untenured professor, right? So I'm not like trying to make any waves up in this mud, right? He really wanted me to be involved in what was going on in Chicano studies, and he, you know, like hemmed me up in a corner, was like, we have this meeting with the dean, you know, we need to come. And we were in this meeting with this dean, and I really want to say this about Max because it really changed me in some ways. And some of the things that were being said by upper administration in these meetings were really disrespectful, right? They were referring to like Latinos as you people, right? In these meetings, really disrespectful. And I remember being in that meeting, being like, the fuck? Like, and Max sat in that meeting completely unfazed, right? He saw what was going on, and he shifted the conversation, right? And so instead of kind of like hitting that, right, that moment and saying like, hold on a second, that he's like, okay, so let's talk about this other thing. And really got back to the crux of the matter, you know? And for me, I sat back and was like, okay, all right, little brother, I see this. You know, I see your tactic here, and it's a really good one. And I'm gonna learn from you, right? In this moment. Just a few days ago, I got an email. I had put together a panel. I was really excited about Max's work, and I had heard about some of the other work being done by Sam and Christian and some of the students in CLS. And I had put in a panel for a Latino Studies conference at Wayne State, and I was gonna present with them and have them showcase their work because I'm so excited about their work. Different approaches to decolonial theory, right? And Max going to talk about decolonial love, you know? And we were gonna talk about the work that we do, and we just got an acceptance email about 4 days ago now. So congratulations, you know, your panel's in, and I was so excited, so excited. And I talked to Lisa about it, talked to some of our colleagues about it, and the conference is in April 23rd, it's my birthday. And I talked to the folks, and they are gonna, I asked them if we could do a panel in memoriam of his work. And so some of the faculty and his colleagues and his friends have decided to come, and the conference said yes, whatever you want, you know. So we're gonna go to that conference and talk about his work. Because the paper that he wrote in my class for the seminar was really beautiful. What he wrote was that, you know, in the studies that he was doing on Black Crit, he went like a beautiful mind here, you see, was that the studies proved that Chicano studies and Mexican American studies curriculum improves the education of Chicano and Mexican American students, right? It improves the education overall, right? Having access to this particular kind of information. But he posed that using these ideas and knowing what those studies show us, that ethnic studies programs would improve the education of everyone. Everyone would be changed. Everyone would improve if they had access to Chicano studies, Mexican American studies, ethnic studies. And he used the language of love. He used the language of like transformative education, Black Crit theory, right? And I read that paper and I was like, this is dope. Like, this is great. I believe you. Like, I believe in this, you know? And I believe in him, and I still believe in him. And I have nothing left to say. I love Max, and I'm so grateful to have had just less than 1 year of him in the world, in my life.
So, I'm the 5th year in graduate school. It's crazy. And I was at a point in my life where it was done. It's jaded. I was ready to be done. I was gonna walk out and live life. And I had it all planned out. I got my wife, got my kid, my partner. She was ready. I was done. I was so just jaded. And I remember just being like, man, I need something. Something's got to change. Something has to change. And then this guy walked in as a first year. And in the, my nerd moment is in the re-release of Autobiography of a Brown Buffalo, Hunter S. Thompson talked about Oscar Acosta as a prototype that God made that was not fit for mass production. And he was my prototype not fit for mass production. University will eat you up and spit you out. It's a machine. And I was at that point where I was just so jaded. And here comes this dude with 2 chisels, live in love. And he's just chipping away. He's just chipping away. And you get to a point where you're like, you know what, I can do this. I can survive. There is community here. I had lost passion for my work. I had lost passion for my research. And this board, we keep coming back to this board, but so homie, Christian, the Three Amigos kind of thing, and Christian was like, yes, 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 and I was like, no, erase it, dude, like, no, erase it. Semester's over. So it's done, dude. We got through it, we got through the semester, but on to the next thing, you know, you gotta be ready. He was like, no, this is important. And he's walking around with this board, like, in our office, like, I don't know where to put it, but we're not gonna erase it. And I'm like, no, dude, yeah, we're done, bro. And he didn't erase it. And it's a reminder of his love for his work. It helped me love my work again. I honestly, wholeheartedly believe that my Creator heard me. He heard me, knew that I was jaded, and He sent His prototype. And His prototype chiseled so much away. So like Christian, my work is gonna reflect His life, and it's gonna reflect how to live, and it's gonna reflect how to love. And those will be my historical memories of Max's life.
My name is Vivek Velanki. I'm a first year in curriculum instruction and teacher education. I've known Max for 8 months now. I moved to East Lansing from India, and I still remember the first day I met him in class. I made the mistake of sitting in a group with him. And within the first 2 minutes, I said, shit. He wouldn't stop talking. He was like, we should do it. And I'm like, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And he's like, don't worry about it. We figured this. And I know when I say this, I speak for all 24 of us who are sitting here in the back of the room. For the last 2 days, in the beginning of this week, when we sat in class, we were like, Max is going to show up. He was always late. He was. But we knew he was going to come in I was like, any minute, he's going to be here and he's going to do something stupid. But he'll be here. And every single time he said something in class, like all of us would pause. Because just the passion that he brought to his work and to the classroom every single day, it's something that I'm never going to forget. It's something that I'm going to keep inside of me. There were moments, and I'm honest when I say this, when I said, shit, maybe I should stop everything and be his research assistant. I felt that, and I'm not kidding. Like if you go up to his office right now and look at the books that he's marked up, you could just do a PhD on his annotations. That's gold. But that was just not Max for me. Max, for me, was like home. It was hard for me to be here. He invited me to his house. Heather welcomed in. Simba was like family. Like if you met Simba, if you think Max has got energy, you have to meet Simba. And in the last 8 months, like I spoke to Tashal, she's not here, she's at a conference. And I know this is hard for her, that it's still not real for us. The last time I was in this room, he was sitting there where Jeff was sitting, and Christian was around, and you were all fooling around as usual. And it's still not real, and it still doesn't feel right. But just being around everybody else, hearing their stories, and I think that's the one message that I want to keep closest to my heart. The one message that I learned from him was to love, was to be passionate, was to love everything, every person, every single moment of your life. And when we were looking at this board, there's a note at the bottom of this, I don't know if you can read it. It says, liberation is never for ourselves. And he has that circled. That was Max. Whether it was at 3 a.m. when his hands were freezing to paint a rock for students in India, while I had my hands inside my sweatshirt. He was doing it. And Hannah and I were standing there cheering him on, and we were like, yeah, you're doing it right, you're doing it right. He's like, shut up. Just shut up. But that was him. And I think that's the legacy all of us in the site cohort are going to keep with us. It's something that's dear to our heart. It's something that we've learned from him, that liberation is not for ourselves, and that we are loving. Thank you, Max.
Really hard for me to stand up here. In presentations, I usually stand behind the podium, so I feel naked. But I know that he would have stood up here for me. It's very hard to find people who love you here. And I met Max at a time where I think I needed someone to reaffirm me. And that's what he did. You all know Max, and he looks at you in a way that makes you feel valued. And he did that for me. The last time I saw him was a week before spring break, and I was at his house. And we were talking, and he sat on his bed, and I took off his shoes because he just seemed so exhausted. And I said, you know, I'll see you after spring break. And of course, I didn't. But one thing that Max has taught me is that love eradicates time.
I may not have known him for a long enough time, or I may not have known him as long as other people, but he really taught me that in order to love someone, you need not know them for exponential, amount of time. You can truly connect with the soul and really love them. And this is the first time I've lost someone in a state where I understand the value of life. And I'm happy that I was able to meet him. I'm happy that he reaffirmed me when I needed it most. And I'm really going to miss him.
I saw Max, I think, about a month ago. Almost exactly a month ago. Tomorrow will be a month ago. We were leaving the talk by Dr. Cornel West. And that day, I saw Dr. Cornel West speak twice. One in the morning and then once in the evening. And out of all of the things that he said, there were two things that I think stuck with me the most. One of them being, when you live in a society that consistently seeks to dehumanize you, it's so critical to be a love warrior. And I think those that hit me just because I've never heard those two words in the same phrase before. What does it mean to be a love warrior? To love unconditionally and to have love be fundamental to your existence. He also said another thing. He said, we are all striving to be artists of life. And that struck me as well. And it's interesting that the day that I heard those words is the same day that I saw Max. And I was leaving the talk, and I mean, you all can see I'm a small guy. But it never mattered. Like, Max would always like, and like clinch me, and like, it's interesting. The first time that it happened, I was like, I don't know how this is gonna work out. Oh my God. Like, Max is big. And I was like, I don't know how this is gonna work out. But I come to recognize how much I loved seeing him, because that embrace was the most gentle embrace that you could possibly imagine. And leaving that Cornel West talk, I saw him. I was about to cross the street to go over towards Brody, and he said, "Hey, Bud!" And I turned around. I knew it was Max because he's the only one I know that says Bud. And I turned around and I waited for him, and I'm just so glad that I waited for him. And in the same type of fashion, he came and gave me another embrace, and as usual, he's like, "Yo, man, Raza, man, liberation, all these different things." And I'm like, at that moment, it all clicked for me. I was like, if I can think of anybody who exemplifies what it means to be a love warrior, what it means to be an artist of life, I think that is him. And I'm just grateful to have been able to see him as a fellow organizer and as a brother and as a friend, but also as a peer and as a scholar in class, to see how he is as a scholar, but then also as an educator, and just his amazing gift to affect change, not only through his actions, but pedagogically and theoretically. And he's just a phenomenal thinker and a phenomenal mind, and just a completely remarkable human being. And even right now, for the past few days, I've been sad, of course, but I've been overcome with this remarkable calm and this joy of listening to the stories and listening to all of the experiences that people have to tell about him. And it's just I'm just consistently reminded of how we impress upon others
in a way that is very fundamentally human that we don't, I think, recognize all of the time. And so to hear how his spirit and his laughter lives on and is in our presence right now is what I think is giving me that incomparable joy and calm to remember him and feel him and to feel his hug and his embrace. And all of that is just very uplifting to me. And I think as others have alluded to, I think in his honor and to honor who he was and the type of friend and human being he was, I only hope that my work can be an extension of who I am just as his was. And I think that that's something that I feel like we all strive for. So I love Max, I love you all, and I just hope to continue to honor him.
I only knew Max for months, which seems like a very short time, but through that time that felt very instant, I know he's made a lasting effect on me. And I know his passion, his love, his energy, is something I can only hope to embody in the future. So I really just want to say thank you, Max. Thank you for allowing me the chance to learn from you, to learn from your passion, and to feel your love.
I knew Max for a short period of time, but I stand here with a smile on my face because I was given a gift. I was given a gift in the brief moment that I knew Max and began to know the man we've all come to love. And thinking back on it, you know, it only seems like seconds, but when you break those seconds down, infinity lives in that short period of time. So to God and to Max, thank you for that small infinity.
So the more and more I'm listening to y'all, because I knew Max in a very specific context. Y'all are talking about social justice, the struggle, pushing back against the university for CLS. That's the context I knew him in. Late night meetings, lots of laughter, lots of smiles. We didn't necessarily think we were taking over the world, but we definitely thought we were going to make some progress. But yeah, so the more and more I'm hearing y'all talk about him, the more and more I'm thinking about my experiences with him, it's clear that he was the revolution he was working towards. The research he did, the work he did in California and Texas, everything he inspires y'all to do, me to do, us to do, he was the revolution he was struggling for. And like Rashad said, he was a love warrior. He was a soldier in the struggle. And we lost a good soldier.
for people of color, this university can be a very unforgiving place. And to come in this space, you can feel very alone and empty. And one of the things that Max has taught us is what it really meant to be fearless, because you had no time to be scared in this space, because we had to be filled with liberation on our minds. So there's no time to be scared here. And in a relationship that I've developed with Max and growing to love him, you know, a piece of me really feels empty right now, because I was filled with freedom when I was with him. A piece of me even feels like I betrayed him, because this semester I completed all my coursework. It was my last semester. And he was like, yo, we need to take critical race theory. So I was like, all right, so I signed up for it, and I was done. And my advisor was like, nah, you don't need it. I was like, nah, but Mike, I'm gonna take it with Max, and we're gonna make this happen. So like, took one of the first day class, we went, the advisor's like, no, like, just please stop wasting your time, drop the class. So I dropped it. You know, it's all about decolonizing. So we were gonna go to Europe and take a decolonial class. And I was like, all right, let's do it. But I'm like, you know what, no, I can't. It's like my comprehensive exam, so I'm not gonna do it. So I was like, all right, Mike. And I saw him last week. And he was like, yo, Mike, you know spring break, you gonna be home? I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be home. He's like, yo, you have to get up with me. Let's get up. I was like, all right, bet, let's do it, because we have to catch up anyway. And I called him. So like a piece of me feels empty. I feel like I betrayed him. So it's really tough. But in this space, you do not have time to be scared, because before we graduated this university, we were going to liberate it. That was the goal. Before we graduated this university, it was going to be liberated. And now that he is, returned forward, as he spoke about in his scholarship, I think that we need to embody what that revolutionary spirit means within our work, and take on that mantle that, when we leave this room. And the only way to remember Max is to live very fearless and in that revolutionary spirit. Because revolution, it's a very poetic term, so people like to discuss it because it sounds beautiful, but he lived it and practiced it and engaged in it and was going to liberate this university. And I think about this poem by Sonia Sanchez. It's called For Sweet Honey in the Rock. And she's like, I'm going to stay on the battlefield until I die. And I think the only way to honor Max is to live in that space and to die in that space. So that's all.
Too late for me. I'm older now, and it's not the same. I can't stay up all night. I met Max in 1996. That's when MSU still had CalNet. For those of you who remember that terrible screen. And we didn't know how to use email still. We didn't know how to use that stuff. We were machistas together. And we did a lot of training that first year. So I could tell you guys are all like impressed with Max. You're like, he's so smooth, he's so cool. There was a time when I met Max. Max had long hair and he would wear this sweatband and a very nice knitted sweater that was a V-neck. It was nice and pink and it had a great green stripe going down it. And my friend Kamara told me, she was like, oh, we're gonna go to a house party and I'm inviting my friend from James Madison. And I'm like, okay. And then he popped in and I was just like, dude, your friend, she's kind of ugly. We gotta hook her up, But poor Max, right? Poor Max. She was like, no, he's a boy. And I was like, oh. Okay, está bien. So we went and we hung out, and then we saw him again on Sunday. We saw him at the mentor meeting. And it would be a wonderful adventure from there on, because as you would
you would know him, he's always been the same heart. That's not changed. His friend was telling me, I was like, come on front and say something. He's like, I don't know him that well. I was like, you know him just as well as anybody else. That heart ain't changed. That's still Max. He's goofy, he's crazy, he's always laughing, but he wants to get something done. That's Max. So there are moments for Max that didn't go too well, and there are moments for Max that went excellent. He was always happy, he was always bubbly, he didn't let things get him down. One time it was 1996, we went to the march in Washington, and this was for immigration rights. It's one of the early ones. And on the way down, we were in an MSU van, and I don't know how many of you guys remember, if any of you remember any of these people I'm going to mention. There was Mark Anthony Torres, who was the president of Metro at the time. And Mark Anthony Torres was kind of an a-hole. It's okay, we can say it, because, you know, we got love. And he was gonna razz poor Max that day, because we were in one van and they were in the other van. And so Max used to have this necklace he would hang around his neck. And as the story goes, Mark Anthony Torres was moving everybody he could on that road to Washington, D.C. from Michigan. And he grabs Max's necklace and he turns around, so no one really knows. And he said he put it in his butt, right? and he's wiggling his butt out the window, and you know, this is great stuff, right? So then Max puts it back on. He's like, give it back. And so we're all like, oh! But he didn't really put it in. But like for the rest of the trip, we're all like, oh, you know, because we were still kids. You got to remember that we were still kids. Very strong activists and chicanistas and nationalists, but we were still kids messing around. And then when we got to a gas station, we pulled over and we're all laughing and we're getting out to, you know, take our bathroom break. There's a little old couple and they're like, oh look, honey, that's the young man that was mooning us. Needless to say, those were good times, but they were also hard times, because when you're a freshman, the upperclassmen take advantage. They still do. There's also a time in 1998, you know, Max and I, and Mr. Mark Anthony Torres as well, we were part of an action. And during that time, we had a list of things we were protesting. One of them being that there were not enough Chicano Latino students on campus. And it was the state of the university. McPherson was still president, for those of you who remember him. And we would stand up simultaneously in different areas of the room and read off what our demands were while he was speaking. And this, of course, confused him a little. And he kept trying to encourage us to come to his house for drinks, you know. But they were reading about how there was alcoholism on campus. So, of course, we were getting more mad. And eventually, a police officer came over, and they took Mark Anthony Torres. And then a police officer came over, and he took me. And Max was sitting next to me at the time. And he looked up, and he grabbed the paper, and he started reading off of that paper with all his heart. Because he saw it. He saw them take me, and he was like, I'm not leaving Ala alone. I knew it. He was my friend. He wasn't going to leave me alone. So they took us out into the hall at that point, and they went through our backpacks. They found scissors, you know, and it was still before a time before if you found scissors in somebody's backpack, it wasn't, you know, something you could arrest them for or call them a terrorist, or, you know, because of a lot of our friends. They went to Seattle. They came back. They couldn't do anything but DJ after that. You know, a lot of our friends were getting arrested in Ann Arbor for touching a fence and consider it, you know, we were getting arrested. And at that moment, the campus police had us, and they were taking us through the back door. And I said to myself, either they're going to hit me here, or they're going to hit me outside. Because I knew we had done something that none of the students had done before. Latino students didn't speak out. Not like that. And here comes Max. I could hear him laughing. He's like, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. He was telling everybody it was gonna be okay. And it was gonna be okay. So they take us, they fingerprint us, they stick us in a little cell. They stick me in another cell because I'm a girl. So I'm across, but there's like a big old glass window. And they stick him in with Mark Anthony Torres. And Max immediately is freaked out that he's in jail. He realizes. And he's looking around, and he's doing this, and I'm like, oh God, because I can't hear anything that's going on. And then he starts doing jumping jacks. And I'm like, and he's just like, he drops, he's doing push-ups, and I'm like, good, stop watching TV.
and we were released, of course. And you know, our friend Tomas was outside because he was ready to bail us out. But we went home, and we went home, and we got these letters in the mail. Now, mind you, these charges had been dropped on campus, but Stuart Dunnings decided to write us a letter. And I can't tell you everything that was in the letter, but what I can tell you, it was not a very nice letter. And it was a letter threatening us that if we ever did anything again, like our friends, that we would be prosecuted to the utmost of the law. And then Max's mom wrote a letter back to him. And Max brought it to Mecha, and he read it to us. And we were like, dang, Max, your mom is badass. And so this week, I don't know if you've heard, but Stuart Dunnings was indicted or whatever. And I wrote to Max on Facebook, and I wrote to Mark Anthony Torres, who I still talk to, even though he's an a-hole. And I said, you know, when God does your work, he wraps it up. I said something like he was wrapping it up in a bow or whatever, because I didn't know what had happened. And I was like, why does this fool not like it back? He always likes this stuff immediately, you know? And I didn't hear from anybody, so I go to work the next day, and we have intranet, so I can't get anything on my phone, and I keep getting calls, and I keep getting calls and messages, and have you heard, and I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? And, you know, I got Sheila on the phone, and she was telling me what went down. She's like, Max is dead. And we keep saying to ourselves in the hall when people are coming in, we're like, we keep expecting him to come in and start laughing and be like, I got y'all! But unfortunately, he's probably not going to do that. I have the privilege to know him then. I have the privilege to know him now. And one day I'll have the privilege to know them allá, más allá. So, you know, I'm sorry to his family for your loss. We're also very sad. I've been talking to Mechistas today. We're very sad. Everybody's real sad. Even Todd. I haven't talked to Todd, I know. I haven't talked to Todd. Todd is sad. He's real sad, and he wants everybody to know that Max was really excited about what he was doing, and he was really excited. And so hopefully, you know, we can get that stuff published. Hopefully we can get that stuff out there, because Max will still live through his work, and it will inspire others. As he has touched all of you, he will touch people through his work. So thank you.
I got to meet him 4 years ago, which he would argue and say was our 5th summer this year. We would always go back and forth. He was really funny about that. But I got to meet him in Traverse City at the Cherry Festival, and instantly he just captured my heart. And I told him that I was in the parade, and he said, what? You were the Cherry Queen? And I said, oh, you know, this guy is trying to just flatter me and charm me here. But he was, and he was just incredible. And I said, yeah, where did you come from? And he said, I was actually just on one of the rides down there, you know, the Tilt-A-Whirl. And I then joked with him later that he really did like tilt this world, and he did. And actually my phone, that's still what I had him in. He took my phone too the minute I met him and put his number in and he put in Max, and I said, well, you should put something else so I know which Max it is, as if I met a lot of Maxes that night. And anyway, so he put Max Monroy, and he put in parentheses Tilt-A-Whirl. And so that is just so amazing. It's special to me. And then my friends would tease me and say, well, you're his Cherry Queen now. When are you going to be Miss Michigan? And I would tease him about that. And then he would say, well, you know, when you marry me, you get to be my Miss Universe. And he just was so fun and so flattering. And when I went, he wanted me to come and see him, and I was so scared. But he made me so brave. And he said, why not? And that was just his motto, was why not? And when I found something for him, I gave it to him for his birthday when I first met him. And he opened it, and it just had, I put Max, why not? Love Heather, and I put Psalm 37:4, which I love the Message version, and it says, keep company with God and get in on the best. And he was the best. And he opened it, you guys, and he looked at this, and he's like, oh, thanks. Because he thought I just gave him this piece of wood with some letters in it. And when you turn it around, then he got it. He's like, oh, I thought that's all you gave me. And it says, why not make it a why not day? And so I just loved that so much. And of course, I just couldn't stop talking to him. And, we dated for 2 years. And then he said he wanted to come to Michigan so that we could be together. And then he was so excited to be back at MSU. And he was saying all of the things you're saying that, when I went there wasn't even this program. And now I'm gonna get my PhD in this now, And he was so proud. And as we were driving across country to come here, we packed him all up. And his mom, of course, was so happy he was going to be home, that her boy was going to be home. But she's in Florida right now, and she's just so touched by all of this. I said, let's learn a verse together. And I said, how about, 1 Corinthians, which is very popular at weddings, hoping that one day I could marry him. So he made me that. Do you mind picking up that bookmark? And it's so artistic, and I would love you to look at it. It's got 1 Corinthians on it, and we tried to start learning it because we thought at our wedding we could recite that together. So anyway, sorry, I just want to leave you with this. He just was incredible, and he wrote me this poem, and for my birthday last year, and he says this: loving you blesses me. It's a reminder that hope is real, that longing doesn't require endless patience, and while prayers are not answered on my schedule, I am certain that they are answered. Loving you blesses me like the rays of sunlight that warm our cheeks after clouds part in the sky, like spring renewal and happy memories randomly resurfacing for our unexpected pleasure. Loving you blesses me like fateful moments at the You and I lounge, like 2 sodas and a Cherry Queen, like summer flings turned real thing. You bless me, and I will always love you. And today when I was reading that, it came to me, I swear it's a sign from him that he's safe with Jesus in heaven. The clouds parted and the sun came down on my face, just like what he wrote. And I said, thank you, Jesus. He is with you and he's safe and we will see him again. He blessed me.
I want to say thank you for everyone who shared. Like we said, we do have a camera, so if you did get a chance to share, we will be in the back at the end of the vigil. At this point, we're going to have Sacramento Knox come and do his thing and maybe say a couple words.
Buju ani, Ichimanatu, Ishkote Nene, Dishnakaz, Ijawan Donjuba, Ishik and them. Just a human being from Detroit, struggle to be here. And just want to share what Max shared with me the first time I met him. He shared some poems. So I met him before I joined the fraternity. I was on campus and I'm just like, yo, I don't know how to deal with white supremacy. And I looked to these dudes, these wild guys. They shared a lot of characteristics and I felt really at home with them. And I was really grateful that I get to uplift and carry the legacy of that brotherhood, especially Max, because he's a big brother, mentor, things like that. And you didn't really have those things in the hood of Detroit. And so seeing those, as time goes through, we reconnected. I met him in Oakland when I was on Oakland, in the Bay, studying political education and learning how to be better for the movement. Because I never thought I would be in the movement like that. There's a few moments I was supposed to die. And I was really grateful for Max introducing the power of words and what it can do. And I travel the country and
uplift my community, my people. I'm just really grateful for that. But I really think we should take this moment to breathe together. So if everyone can stand up really quick. We're gonna breathe 4 times for the chord direction. Ready? So this is for the east. Go ahead and inhale. Exhale. This is for the south. Inhale. This is for the west. Inhale. And this is for the north. Inhale. Everybody can just close their eyes for me. There's a lot of beautiful things said. Just want to take time to all collectively heal together. So imagine the love and light of Max clearing all our negative emotions we must have, our anger, our hatred, all these things that we may be feeling in this tragedy, the passing of our dear brother. Just feel it go through your neck. You can let your shoulders go. You're probably tense in your shoulders, so go ahead, let your spine and your body do the work. Let the shoulders go. And tense from the neck. And feel it and go all the way through your back. And most are probably clenching your cheeks. You can unclench them. Ease up. And feel it down through your legs to ease up. To your feet. Keep us here. So keep your eyes closed. Imagine. Follow the voice. Seven shots of Hennessy, tipped it to my camaraderie, sipped it, flipped it, in real life that infinity got me feeling rockin' Motor City, got some friends, got some enemies, watching my proximity locked up in this long legacy. Lost my dear friend, he was a brother to me. Because I look back at the moment where we would have had no moments because of dangerous moments, woven from the struggled vocals from locals to take and uplift our ancestors' motives. Live beautifully. The first time we met, my eyes were shut, scared as fuck from the breath of thunderous lungs, asking me if I have what it takes to uplift the culture. Fast forward, I look in a circle and I see all the change I brought. I believe I transformed. But claim no easy victories because this is only the beginning. The beginning of beginnings. Rewind to the time where we were looking back at that moment, 2004, my eyes opened up to see the poems of a man who gave pride with arms and legs reach, but whose heart and soul is an infinity miles deep. Now this is a fun part. I'm gonna sing and you can please join me. On and on and on and on. My cipher keeps me up and it makes me strong. On and on and on and on. My cipher keeps me up and it makes me strong. On and on and on and on. My cipher keeps me up and it makes me strong. On and on and on and on. My cipher keeps me up and it makes me strong. On and on and on and on. My cipher keeps me up and it makes me strong. On and on and on and on. My cipher lifts me up and it keeps me strong. On and on and on and on. My cipher keeps me up and it makes me strong. On and on. And on and on, my cipher lifts me up and it keeps me strong. On and on, and on and on, my cipher lifts me up and it makes me strong. On and on, and on and on, my cipher lifts me up and it keeps me strong. Open your eyes. We're all here because of a beautiful man that touched our life. So let's keep living that. Let's keep living that legacy of love and turn to your neighbor and hug him. Hug your family, hug your friends right next to you right now. I want to offer one last thing. It's a song, it's a traveling song. This song was sung since time immemorial on these lands before, we had some problems from here. So I'm gonna stay in the tradition and to uplift the work of our brother that we were in the decolonial work. I want to share a traveling song. I'm gonna share a traveling song for everyone so they can walk good in their paths and keep the legacy alive with them, love each other, continue to do that. And this is Kedzie Hall. She's gonna sing a song.
Bonjour. Kedzie Hall kwa indigenous cause. What you want to do? I also didn't know Max for too long, but just share all of the sentiments that everyone said, and that he was just so full of love and just such a beautiful spirit. And as everyone was saying, two spirits, they just transcend time, so I just felt like I knew him for so much longer, and was honored to meet a brother of my partner who felt like a brother to me, and I learned a lot from him, from his great joy, and which I often have a hard time doing, and he just always had a way of just bringing me back to that space of love and light, which is where we should be. So I'd like to share this traveling song with my partner, and it's an Anishinaabe song, and it's just talking about, helping us in this journey as we walk this life here, and also for Max as he's going on his journey to spirit world, and as we know, he's in Ishpeming, that beautiful heaven place, and just smiling with us. So yeah, there's this thing in Anishinaabe culture called the beauty bridge, and we can cross that at any time to go to that spirit place, and him as well. So just want to sing for us all. Oh, and another thing about the song, it's always we're saying we'll see you later, because in Anishinaabe Moan we have no word for goodbye. So.